Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Charanavotamam Devi Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead, Narayana, to Narayan Rishi, who most human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Namaskar Prayesha Bhagaveshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavati Tamashlaki Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Om Gyanatimi Randasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Lena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamaya Dharati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuktapadakammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sugrajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamstra Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namasrite Tapta Kanchana Gauranga Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sate Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpate Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Aschatya Desha Tarine. Hare Krishna. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, which is entitled the Summum Bonum. And we're on chapter 13, entitled Brahma stealing the boys and calves, or the stealing of the boys and calves by Brahma. And yesterday we read through text 13. So we're on text 14 of chapter 13, Canto 10. And all right, so this is chapter 13, text 14. The Sanskrit is Ityutvadri Dari Kunja Gavareshvat Mavatsakam Dijinvan Bhagavan Krishna Sapani Kavalo Yayo. So this is Krishna speaking. This is Krishna speaking to his cowherd friends. And they're actually, we just read the verse that describes, you're probably all familiar with the picture of Krishna in the forest of Vrindavan, and they're all taking lunch together and surrounded by his cowherd friends, and they're all looking at Krishna. And so we just read the verses that describe that exact picture. And yes, it says things like, let's see.
They're using flowers as their plates.
Using flowers as their plates, and banana leaves, and rocks. It's like, here's the translation for text 8 of this chapter. Like the whirl of a lotus flower surrounded by its petals and leaves, Krishna sat in the center, encircled by lines of his friends, who all looked very beautiful. Every one of them was trying to look forward toward Krishna, thinking that Krishna might look toward him. In this way, they all enjoyed their lunch in the forest. Among the cowherd boys, some placed their lunch on flowers, some on leaves, fruits, or bunches of leaves, some actually in their baskets, some on the bark of trees, and some on rocks. This is what the children imagined to be their plates as they ate their lunch. All the cowherd boys enjoyed their lunch with Krishna, showing one another the different tastes of the different varieties of preparations they had brought from home. Tasting one another's preparations, they began to laugh and make one another laugh. Krishna's yagya bhuk, that is, he eats only offerings of yagya, but to exhibit his childhood pastimes, he now sat with his flute tucked between his waist and his tight cloth on his right side, and with his horn bugle and cow driving stick on his left, holding in his hand a very nice preparation of yogurt and rice, with pieces of suitable fruit between his fingers. He sat like the whorl of a lotus flower, looking forward toward all his friends, personally joking with them and creating jubilant laughter among them as he ate. At that time, the denizens of heaven were watching, struck with wonder at how the personality of Godhead, who eats only in yagya, was now eating with his friends in the forest. O Maharaj Parikshit, while the cowherd boys, who knew nothing within the core of their hearts but Krishna, were thus engaged in eating their lunch in the forest, the calves went far away, deep into the forest, being allured by green grass. When Krishna saw that his friends, the cowherd boys, were frightened, he, the fierce controller, even of fear itself, said, just to mitigate their fear, "My dear friends, do not stop eating. I shall bring your calves back to this spot by personally going after them myself." And then the translation of the verse for this that we just read, the Sanskrit up. "Let me go and search for the calves," Krishna said. "Don't disturb your enjoyment." Then, carrying his yogurt and rice in his hand, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, immediately went out to search for the calves of his friends. To please his friends, he began searching in all the mountains, mountain caves, bushes, and narrow passages. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.E.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
So what verse are we on again?
14.
Text 14, chapter 13. The Vedas, Vedasvatara Upanishad 6.8, assert that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has nothing to do personally, because he is doing everything through his energies and potencies. Nonetheless, here we see that he took personal care to find the calves of his friends. This was Krishna's causeless mercy. Maya Dyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. All the affairs of the entire world and the entire cosmic manifestation are working under his direction through his different energies. Still, when there is a need to take care of his friends, he does this personally. Krishna assured his friends, "Don't be afraid, I'm going personally to search for your calves." This was Krishna's causeless mercy. As we discussed 2 days ago, Danielle made a comment or a few days ago, maybe a week ago, "Oh wow, they're pretty young to take care of calves." And yeah, they're young boys, and this is their responsibility. And they're having a good time, eating and frolicking. And then they notice, "Oh, the calves, where'd they go? Oh no, where'd they go?" So they have some anxiety, transcendental anxiety. So Krishna's saying, "I'll take care of it, I'll take care of it." And Prabhupada's emphasizing in the purport, Natasya, this is an important Vedic mantra, Natasya Karyam Karanam Vijite, that Krishna has nothing to do. Meaning, there is no have to. This is language there's no have to. There's no force, no pressure, everything. Just like in ordinary English, we think like, "Oh, I work during the week, and then in the weekend I have my pastimes." Pastimes means I don't have to do it. I just like to play golf. I just like to hike in the woods, right? There's the work and there's the pastime. And so, of course, in material nature, even the recreation is also pulled by the modes of nature. But that's the principle.
It eventually gets boring anyway.
Yeah.
You
That's,
just get habitual.
then we need some more wild pastimes or something. So right? So for Krishna, it's all pastime. Whether it's creating the material world, or dancing with the gopis, or looking for the calves, or battling with demons, or expanding as Lord Nrsimhadev, or speaking to Arjuna, it's all completely pastime. Now, well, importantly, and for the pure devotee of Krishna, it's also all pastime. That's why, like, when we talk about, I mean, sometimes Prabhupada will use the term like Krishna's birthday. So we can say Prabhupada's birthday, but more technically, we say appearance day and disappearance day, rather than birth or death, to distinguish the activities and appearance and disappearance of the pure devotee from the birth and death and activities of the ordinary condition. So, okay, so for us also, everything becomes transcendental play, to the extent that we move towards rising to higher modes of nature, towards sattva, and ultimately, because sattva is also a material mode, but it's closer to the soul, it's closer to transcendence. And so, to the extent that we absorb ourselves in transcendence, then we too are not puppets of the ropes or the modes of material nature. Of course, in philosophy, certainly Western philosophy over the millennia, there's the debate about free will, where everything's predetermined and reductionistic and mechanistic. And basically that is elegantly resolved in this Bhagavatam philosophy. Basically, Krishna says, Ishvara sarvabhutana videsha jnanitishthati brahman sarvabhutani yanturudani mayayam. He says, I am situated in the hearts of all living entities who are seated as if on a machine made of material energy. So to the extent that we're influenced on the lower modes of nature, tamas and rajas, then it is like a machine. We might think, what do you mean? What do you mean I don't have free will? No, I'm choosing to drink this fifth beer. I'm choosing to smoke this cigarette. I'm choosing to go to this work, to go to this job. I'm choosing to watch TV, or you like that. But to the extent that we're in the lower modes, so the whole material existence is a prison. It's called Durga, and lower modes means more like a straitjacket. Okay, like animals, plants, practically no free will uncovered. So it is machine-like, and we're like that too, to the extent that we associate and embrace life in the modes of nature. And to the extent that, we have some sattva gun, then there's more free will. It's still a prison, but it's kind of like minimum security. Some of you have heard me tell the story. Back in the early mid-90s, I went twice with Chandrasekhar Prabhu. He was the director of the prison ministry at that time, the ISKCON prison preaching ministry. The current director for the past 7-8 years is Bhakti Lata Gautier. She's a Saftov graduate, and she's a French Canadian, and she resides here in Alachua now, and she comes to our program sometimes. So the director at that time was Chandrasekhar Das, and I was kind of new in Alachua. I came to this area. Well,
It's not Chandrasekhar.
it was Chandrasekhar. Kulashekar was in Israel,
Yeah, that's right.
and he passed away recently.
Oh.
I read it, yeah. Interesting pastimes with him. So we were driving up, and it's a long drive. It was way west Florida, so we're going west on I-10, and it's past Tallahassee. A little bit before Pensacola, there's a place called the Eglin Air Force Base. So we turn in, and we go through some security, and I noticed there's tennis courts, and people playing tennis. So I imagine there must be the generals and the administrators. We go through some more security, we get into the actual prison, because there's one prisoner there who was very active and enthusiastic about Krishna consciousness. So he arranged for this program. And then, so there's like 25 prisoners came, and we had a nice program. So what I found out, that the tennis players, they were not the guards or the administrators, they were the prisoners. And they had a volleyball court, and it was quite a nice arrangement. So this was a minimum security prison, There was no barbed wire. And like the prisoners, they were saying, oh, today we're having a state senator join us, meaning like some state senator got convicted of embezzlement or something. So it was white collar crime. Yeah, the participants in the program, there was a bank manager, and there was so it was all white collar, non-violent crime, and so they had it nice, but still it was a prison. Like there was no barbed wire, but there was a line. There was a white line, and if you walked across it, oh, then the next day you're in maximum security prison. Next day you're in maximum security prison. So it's not like, oh, I want to visit my family in New York, or like that. No, so it's still prison. So that's like mode of goodness. And so so to the extent that the spirit soul is in the lower modes of nature, then it is machine-like. There's no self-determination. It's a gradation. To the extent the spirit soul higher modes of nature, okay, then it's more free will. And to the extent that the spirit soul has no material desires, right? We get in the modes of nature because we have material desires. It's not like, no fair, I'm in the modes of nature. No fair that this happened to me. No, it's because I have material desires, I nourish them, they're precious for me, and then I'm entangled. And when the spirit soul has no material desires, and we understand the situation of no desires is impossible. But we can have no material desires, and then we're full of Krishna conscious desires, and then we're peaceful, and we're actually free. And then that's the free will fully blossoming, fully blossoming. And so to the extent that we engage in devotional service, then we too are natasya karam karanam vijayate. We too take on that quality of Krishna having nothing to do. There's a lot of enthusiastic activity, but it's not forced. It's all pastime.
Hare Krishna, David.
Dr. George.
Yeah, I really appreciate your analogy and sharing. As you were speaking, I was reminded one of the lectures that I've heard you speak, or maybe you were quoting Prabhupada, that you were saying that we are victimized by the machine of material nature. And I think you said, and like the real hard to swallow part of that is that we invite that victimization, we attract it. So
Yes.
this was
Like the croaking of the frogs.
the croaking of the frogs, yeah.
Yeah, like the croaking of the frogs attracts the snake. So, yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, because it's the integration of 100% personal responsibility and being victimized, and we attract and create our victimization. So just like like let's say if we observe a prison, and we might say, that prisoner, the guards are victim, they're just pulling him here and there, and they're shoving him into his cell, and now he has to eat at this time, he can only go outside for 45 minutes for exercise, otherwise he's being victimized by the system. He's being victimized, but it's not like poor him unfair. I mean, we can have compassion, and real compassion isn't like, poor, pity. Real compassion is, I feel your pain, and let me give you recommendations of how to become a good citizen. Become a model prisoner. Then you'll get probation, and then when you go out, actually, follow the law, get a good job, be dharmic. Then you won't need to come back here to actually give knowledge, so he won't get victimized by the prison system again. Because we understand, we can empathize with his pain and his suffering and his anger. We can empathize with all that. At the same time, it's not an accident you're here. You're here because you chose to use your free will to violate the law. And if you didn't do that, then you could go kayaking at the river. You could be in your home and enjoying with your family. But you chose to break the law. That's why you're being victimized here by the guards and the system. Thank you for that, George.
I was wondering, Prabhu, in what sense this material existence is a prison in the most obvious way, which we can share with others.
Okay. In what sense? Well, it's like, in one sense, yeah, it's like, because we hear it so much, and it's like, how to get it. I mean, to the extent we have realization of the nature of material energy, we can inspire others with that realization. But just like, it's not a prison, I'm free. Okay, well, yeah, you're not even free to leave your home because of this lockdown, right? Yeah, but they're coming up with a vaccine. They're coming up with a vaccine. So that's, okay, so the prison, let's say the four main bars are disease, birth, death, old age. Okay. No, but they're going to come up with a vaccine. Didn't you hear me? Yeah, well, you're right. See, I see what you're saying. They came up with the vaccine for smallpox like 200 years ago, and it's true. There's no more smallpox right now. And they've come up with a vaccine for polio, right? So yeah, they have rid the world of so many diseases. So now we see there's like no disease. No, actually, we don't see that. No. Because that's the thing. However many vaccines they come up with, that's part of the bar. That's part of the context of this world. Disease. And if we get rid of this corona, there's other diseases. They were solving so many diseases. I know when I was growing up in the 70s, and then this immunodeficiency virus came. It's a big thing. And so we can see that there's not even a reduction in disease. Okay. Doesn't mean to stop science. We can use science to mitigate. But the context is we got this prison bar called disease. We got another one called old age. I'm free. You don't want to die. You don't want to die. And we understand you don't want disease. That's natural. Because the nature of the soul is to be deathless, to be disease-free. And we're stuck in the prison house of these bodies that are subject to birth, death, old age, disease. Sometimes we hear, okay, well, death, old age, disease, but birth is this, beautiful. It's a sweet romantic experience. In 1983, 84, I spent a few weeks at Agahsura in the old city of Jerusalem, near Attica. And right, Agahsura, it's a yeshiva at the it's like at the Vrindavan of the Jewish world. Right, it literally overlooks the Wailing Wall, HaKotel. And I remember I heard a story. I guess it's a true story that the Orthodox Jewish women will tend to have 10, 12 children, that sort of thing. The Orthodox Jewish woman, after giving birth, she prays to God for forgiveness. Forgiveness for what? Forgiveness for breaking her promise to God. What promise? Her promise to God that the last time, after the last time she gave birth, she promised to God, I will never do this again. I will never do this again. Meaning that it's understood that there's pain. There's pain for everyone involved in that experience. There's misery, there's disturbance, there's suffering, just like death, old age, and disease. It's described in the Bhagavatam, 3rd canto. The embryo is all, as the embryo grows, it's all compact and stuffed in there, like that. So that's the prison bars. That's the prison bars. There's other prison bars, like disturbances coming from our own mind and body, disturbances coming from others, disturbances coming from earthquakes and hurricanes. There's other prison bars. If we haven't noticed, everyone, including ourselves, has a tendency to cheat and to make mistakes. And there's miseries coming from eating, sleeping, mating, and being fearful all the time. So this is not free life. The so-called happiness and feeling of freedom here, Prabhupada gives the example, like in the old days, maybe still in some countries, they would hold, if there was a criminal, so they would tie him to a chair, dunk him under the water. But then before he died, they would lift him up. And he would have a gasp of breath. So that gasp of breath of, oh, this is happiness. No, it's not happiness. It's not positive happiness where you can run and jump and do as you please. He's suffering misery, he's suffering agony. It's some relief from agony. So when we have some relative relief from agony, from the different disturbances, we think, this is happiness. But that's just like, I was really suffering in solitary confinement. But now I get to go out to the exercise yard for 15 minutes. It's like, let's say when the lockdown's over, this is happiness. It's a relief from misery.
Is there a term in psychology for that? For experiencing such pleasure?
Experiencing such, what kind of pleasure?
Pleasure on account of absence of suffering.
Absence of suffering. Interesting.
Sounds like an interesting psychological
Yes.
phenomenon.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's the thing where kind of, okay, well, you guys. So the current trend in psychology for maybe 20, 30 years is called positive psychology. And it has a few glimpses of positive happiness. At least it's trying. Because they noticed that like they studied like 60 years of psychology research, mental health research. And they found that I'm just approximating numbers. They found there were 80,000 studies on depression and anxiety disorder and grief and anger management and different severe personality disorders, histrionic and borderline. There's just tens of thousands of studies. And there was 10 studies on happiness and on satisfaction. Okay, so all of psychology was pretty much meant to kind of relieve misery. And there was also practically nothing about actually increasing happiness. It was about, like the news. Yeah, right. It was all about relieving misery. So the trend, there was some of the leaders in the positive psychology movement, I consulted with them when I developed my Vedic personality and Mahamantra studies in the 1990s. Persons like Ed Diener and Martin Seligman, I had phone conversations with them. And so now there's more and more research on increasing happiness and increasing life satisfaction and increasing self-confidence, not just decreasing insecurity and anxiety and depression. So that's what they're trying for. And of course, the ultimate positive psychology is immersing ourselves in the pastimes of Krishna and the cowherd boys.
Why I touched the prison analogy, it sort of triggered me because for me, it was sort of like the beginning of my spiritual inquiry towards that side.
Yeah.
When I was living in Vancouver, I had that really strong experience. Although I'm not living inside bars.
Yeah.
But I'm really prisoned by my own desires and by my own lifestyle.
You had some realization of that.
Yeah, and that really moved me to search for some options to get out. Because I immediately thought, okay, if I'm in a prison, there must be freedom. If there is darkness, there must be light.
Nice. So through that realization, Super Soul guided you to Prabhupada.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah. Right.
It's interesting because I think it's a wonderful discussion, a revealing discussion. Because okay, let's say, maybe we know people, let's say someone's just addicted to heroin or, some severe addiction like that. We can all see, it's if they're saying they're free, they're just insane. You can see they're just driven, they need to get the needle, they need to steal money. We can see they're in this terrible prison. and their mind and their desire. We can all see that. And so, right, so because that's extreme, but it's harder to see for ourselves. No, I'm free. I'm not like that addict. So one of the leaders in the field of addiction treatment, really for the past 20, 30 years, his name is Gabor Mate, and his base is Vancouver.
Oh.
Yeah, actually there's some interesting connections with Gabor Mate, and so Gabor Mate, his training is as a physician, medical, so his training is not as a psychologist, as a physician, and he was like in whatever the worst neighborhoods of Vancouver, and he was treating the addicts, and he's come out with books. What's that?
There's the Skid Row there. It's called East Hastings.
I think that's where he was.
You've been there before?
I was not in that section of it.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah, and so I would say that's the part of Vancouver he was in for maybe 10 years or more. And then he came out with books. And then one of his books, maybe his most well-known, is called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. So hungry ghost, it's a term from Buddhism. Buddhism has different realms. It's from Buddhism, and hungry ghost, that's like the term where there's just this kind of like desperate emptiness, and a human becomes a ghostly character. So he uses it as a metaphor for addiction. And anyhow, in the book, it's very, it goes deep into pain, and it's very funny. It's a sense of humor. And so, but where he comes from, which is completely true, is that we're all addicts. We're all addicts, and so he describes himself, and he's being funny, but you can see it's real. Like he'd be driving home from work, like to the suburbs, and he'd pass a mall, and there would be a record or CD shop. Things were not digital so much then, record or CD, and he would just have to, and he would like spend $300 on getting CDs of classical symphonies, and he already had like 3 versions of them, and he would describe 4 or 5 first world addictions that he had that were really draining his life and resources. And so, of course, we know we can all look at our addictions to material nature, and so, but that's where he comes from in the book. So okay, so I read his book, and you can see like he's really getting super soul insight, and he had his particular treatment method with the addicts. So I initiated correspondence with him, and then he read Relationships That Work, and he really liked it, and particularly connected with the part about, towards the end, there's a section on Sattvic living, and there's one section of that section that describes, to move towards sattva and rise above the modes. Chant this mantra: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we had some Skype conversations around chanting japa and mountain japa beads and things like that.
You connected around this prison analogy. I think he took it more to the addiction.
Yeah. Yeah, and just his whole, the whole metaphor was completely Vedic, that we're all addicted. So for some it's more obvious, and like that, and they're in a rehab center, or they're dead on the street, but we're all addicted. And so, and then just like the whole thing now, vaccinations, inoculations. So Prabhupada uses that metaphor, right? But Prabhupada will talk about, like if there's an epidemic, and they come up with a vaccination. So at one point Prabhupada says, the whole material world is like the Hong Kong flu, because he was speaking in '69 when that was a big thing, the Hong Kong flu.
It's not so far from there now.
What's that?
No, it's still China, right? China.
Yeah, same idea. And so Prabhupada said, the whole material world's like the Hong Kong flu. And but then he makes the point, but even if we contact the disease, it doesn't mean we need to contract the disease if we have a vaccination.
What does it mean to contract?
Contract means to get the disease,
To suffer from it.
to suffer from it, right? Basic, I think, medical physiology. We all have so many germs and diseases in it, but we have immune system, right? But for this corona thing, most people don't have the immune system. So Prabhupada would say, so just because we're in contact with material energy doesn't mean we need to get infected. We don't need to contract it. We don't need to get affected if we have the vaccination. And the vaccination, chant Hare Krishna, come to morning program. Prasadam. For sure. Yeah, Prabhupada would say. Chanting is the medicine and prasadam is the diet. Just like if someone's sick, the doctor prescribes, here's the medicine, here's the diet. So Prabhupada as the doctor. Here's your medicine, chant Hare Krishna, and your diet. Eat only prasad.
Then you forget you're in prison.
Yeah. Well, then we're really on the path of liberation.
Hare Krishna. The first time I heard you tell that story about the woman at the Wailing Wall who had given birth, I literally could not understand what you were talking about. I had no frame of reference. I was like, why would somebody apologize for giving birth? Could not understand. Of course, now I've given birth.
Yes.
It makes total sense to me.
Okay.
I never in my life, before or since, had ever experienced pain. Like really experienced pain. And it was a very sobering experience for me. And it actually caused me to quit and I just knock off a lot of that grungy behavior that I had been wallowing in almost. Whoa, poor me, I have all this, emotional disturbance. Having actual pain really sobered me up to get serious about cutting out a lot of the nonsense that I was, pretending to be in a lot of suffering over, because real pain is it's a catalyst for movement. It's definitely a catalyst for movement. And so when I heard Ramachandra ask, what is that term for temporary relief from suffering? In one sense, the word that came up for me is addiction. The word that comes up for me is getting high, because I would have given anything to stop that pain. And I did get high, and it didn't do enough. I would have liked to get higher, because it was excruciating. And really in the material world, the suffering for me that I get relief from is from the Maha Mantra and my connection to Prabhupada. That is really the only thing that's going to give me any sort of relief. So I want to be addicted to Prabhupada. I want to be addicted to Maha Mantra. I want to get real high and stay high, because that pain, in one sense, a physical pain was very important for me to get real with myself about a lot of things. But that much pain is constantly available, or more, if we're really being serious.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the cure. The cure is to get high, is to stay high forever. Prabhupada was not messing around with his words.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Danielle. I hear you. You had a transformed experience with the Wailing Wall story now compared to before you gave birth, and now you have an experience and a realization about that. I'm moved by your experience that immense intensity of physical pain that was unrivaled to anything else you've experienced or that I've ever experienced. That has moved you to realize the nature of this world and to get serious about Prabhupada's Stay High Forever program.
I'll just add that I walked around on a broken foot for a week without any problems or wincing at all. It was I don't have a low pain tolerance. So
Right.
This is serious next level stuff. I feel like it's a good experience for me. And I would recommend anyone to go through it in a safe, controlled environment, because it's very sobering. It got a whole paradigm shift from it.
Well, yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, yeah, and that's it, and that's it. So what Prabhupada's lovingly urging us, like, make this your last forced birth, that you need to experience this birth, death, old age, disease, taking birth, giving birth, experiencing disease, because like happiness in the material world is just like relief from the intensity of the misery, and and so yeah, so Prabhupada just saying, he's just urging us, get serious for this lifetime and finish your business in the prison house.
David, could I ask a quick question? So we were talking about how, our weekend activities, they're like pastimes because we don't have to do them, we choose to do them. And in the material world, they may look like playing, sports, games, video games, whatever it looks like. My question is, in light of our recent discussion on being addicted to material, enjoyment, it almost feels like, I don't know, contradictory, because we have this spirit of wanting to enjoy, I guess, because we are part and parcel of Krishna. But then, I guess what I'm asking is, when is it like addiction? How are we making the call of like renouncing material kind of enjoyment or addiction to material sense gratification, in practical terms of like what we do on weekends, and like, and I know like as far as like sports, or like, I don't know, I guess, are they all just vices that we use to numb? Like, is tennis a vice, or is it actually a representation of our natural kind of, like we were talking before reading the pastimes of Krishna, where they would play keep away with one of the cowherd boys' lunches, and it's like teasing, and then like he would cry, and then they would like get the bag back. So I guess essentially my question is it material entanglement in a sense, or is it like more of a expression, like are these pastimes that we have, um, that might not even, like, I don't know that playing tennis is necessarily a service for Krishna, or I don't, you know what I mean? That's where kind of
I think I see where you're going with that, what you're wondering about, your question. So just like in Goloka, Vrindavan, and Vaikuntha, it's the original pure form of everything. It's the original pure form of service, romance, friendship, parenthood. And it's just the original pure form of color, of speech. It's also the original pure form of sports. Describe Krishna and the Power Boy. They're playing sports with amalaki fruit, and they do swimming, and they do wrestling. And so it's the original form, means pure. And then we have the distorted, perverted reflections of everything in the material world, whether it's, all the rasas have their shadow form here, including sports. So, we can approach sports here in a way that's truly transcendental. Okay, well, like there are some sports, let's say if a true kshatriya is practicing archery or practicing rifle, because he's really defending Krishna's temple and that's his service, he might engage in sports. Okay, or even let's say we play tennis, and the spirit soul in the tennis player's body is completely absorbed, not just in my enjoyment. There might be fun there, but it's completely absorbed of, I do this, I do this, I want my body to be healthy, and this is a way that this is a way that I move my upper body. Of course, I can play Mridanga and that to get that, and I'm really doing it for my body to be healthy, and then I get to use this body in Krishna's service. So, in theory, at least, the consciousness can be purely in devotional service. otherwise, let's say if we, something like sports, so it could be, there's relatively more sattvic, like hiking in the woods, and there could be, lower modes like hunting and killing animals or something like that. But I would say a lot of like the sports, a lot of it is not about positive pastime and the joy of the soul. I mean, the soul's trying to do that, but a lot of it is in terms of eating, sleeping, mating, defending, right? Maybe I played basketball, and there's some attractive woman in the stands, attractive woman walking by who noticed me, or I play tennis or basketball, or I go bowling or play golf as a defense, just so my mind can escape from being in that office with that boss, so my mind can get away from my spouse for 3 hours. So a lot of it is like avoiding pain, defense, like that. So yeah, all of it is the soul attempting to get ananda, attempting to get bliss through sex, through shopping in the mall, through playing sports. But for the most part in the material world, our attempts at ananda, they're not fulfilling for the soul because they're not dovetailed with the desires of Krishna. So those are some ways, like in terms of like survival strategies, avoiding pain, looking good, subtle desire for distinction. I won, and I conquered and I dominated over my opponent. Something just happened. Okay, good now. Yeah. So that's where those are my comments. Where in principle, sports within this realm, the consciousness could be purely devotional. At the same time, we painted some picture of what might be some material desires driving it.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that very much, especially the part about kind of, with scorekeeping, and like it's so often, there are so many, I guess, pitfalls. I guess I can see personally in my own experience with attachment to fruitive results and so forth. So many of those things that you exemplified have given me a lot of clarity around the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, George. I appreciate the discussion and association. Hare Krishna. So we can bring our discussion to a close. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna, Chase.
Haribo. Thank you everybody for joining. Please come tomorrow. Is it Malini's program tomorrow or ours? I think Malini, no?
I think no one has a program tomorrow because I'm doing PBTC.
No, the morning.
A morning program.
Awesome.
You're hosting.
Okay.